Do you believe there's a place so feared that no one dares speak its name? An island in the middle of a river, once a lively village, is now just overgrown grass, rotting trees, and the chilling sound of the wind howling every evening. People say, if someone sets foot on that land, when they leave, one of them will be missing. This story was buried for decades, until one day, a small boat carrying 5 people arrived at that very red sand island. It all began when Tri, a young man born in Saigon, decided to return to the Mekong Delta. Following the dying wish of his late grandmother, on her deathbed, Tri's grandmother could only utter one sentence: "Don't forget Red Sand Island, there's still a child waiting there." Tri didn't understand, but those haunting words compelled him to begin a journey to trace his family's roots. He decided to return to his ancestral village, once his paternal family's homeland. A place that had been erased from the map after a great flood years ago. Joining Tri were 4 friends: Tin, his close friend from university; Ha, his girlfriend since high school; Du, a guy obsessed with feng shui and the occult; and Kai, a videographer fascinated with places rumored to be haunted. The group rented a wooden boat from a local named Uncle Saola. Uncle Sao had lived in the region for decades, white-haired, hunched, with a face that always looked gloomy. When Tri mentioned Red Sand Island, Uncle Sao fell silent for a long time before he finally agreed. "I can take you there, but listen carefully. Don't call anyone's name unless you're sure they're still alive. And if you hear a lullaby, don't ever answer it." The group chuckled awkwardly, thinking the old man was just superstitious. But the look in Uncle Sao's eyes was cold and deep, like the river during flood season. The boat quietly glided through narrow river branches, deep into channels filled with water hyacinths and floating weeds. The water was still like glass. Dusk fell. The sunset stretched across the river like a crimson silk ribbon. From afar, a patch of deserted land came into view. "There's Red Sand Island." Tri pointed ahead. On the island stood a few ancient trees, the ruins of a collapsed house peeking through the wild grass. No birds, no signs of life. By the time the boat docked, twilight had fallen. The group set up camp near the shore and built a fire to prepare dinner. Kai eagerly prepped his camera to document their journey to this forgotten land. While everyone was gathering firewood, Ha stumbled upon a small rusted copper child's necklace, half buried beneath an old mastwood tree. She picked it up and handed it to Tri. But the moment she touched it, a chill ran down her spine. "Weird, it's cool out. But I suddenly feel freezing." Night fell. The river wind howled in bursts. The group huddled around the campfire. Du shared ghost stories, Kai filmed, and Tin sipped coffee while whittling a tiny wooden charm from a rotted branch. Suddenly, a lullaby echoed faintly in the distance. "Oh oh," the wind sways the bamboo gently. The soft singing drifted through the night. At first, everyone thought Kai had played music for his video. But Kai turned pale. "It's not me. I haven't even set up my gear." Everyone froze, glancing at one another, then turned toward the riverbank. The lullaby continued, as if someone was singing from the middle of the water. Du instantly clutched the protective charm in his pocket. Tri warned everyone not to respond to the singing. They turned off all the lights, sat silently by the fire, listening as the lullaby crept closer and closer. "Oh oh, mother's back. Sleep well now, my child." Then suddenly, Ha screamed, "There's a child standing behind that tree. It's staring at me." Kai shined his flashlight. Only the old mastwood tree stood there, perfectly still. But clearly, in the wet sand beneath it, were tiny footprints. As if someone really had just been standing there. No one slept that night. Kai stopped filming. Tin laid trembling in the tent. Ha couldn't sleep, kept asking Tri if this was truly his grandmother's old village. Tri walked out to the riverbank, staring into the dark waters. He bent down to splash water on his face. When he looked up, he saw, reflected in the surface, a young girl's face staring back at him, red eyes, long hair veiling her features. He stumbled back, falling, but when he looked again, the water was still. And that lullaby didn't stop. Even deep into the night, long after the lights were out and everyone was wrapped tightly in their tents against the cold. The lullaby kept drifting in, fragmented, faint, as if rising from beneath the water. By the third time Tri heard it, the melody was the same, but the lyrics had changed. Oh, 5-roofed house. Mother lies outside, Ha curled up in her tent, hands tightly covering her ears. Tin lay beside her, eyes wide open, unable to sleep. Kai wrapped himself completely in his jacket, holding his camera like it was a sacred relic. Only Du, who had studied yin-yang and the 5 elements, sat quietly in meditation behind a banana grove. He lit incense, placed it between 3 stones, eyes closed, lips murmuring prayers. Tri stepped out and whispered, "Who are you praying to?" "Du? I'm not praying. I'm asking the spirit of the land to see if there's anyone else here tonight besides us." Tri stayed silent. The wind blew again, this time in sharp bursts that chilled the back of his neck. Then, the lullaby stopped. Around 2 in the morning, Tin jolted awake. He looked around the tent. Ha was still asleep. Kai was curled up, but then he saw a figure standing at the tent's entrance. Facing away. "Tri?" No one answered. He slowly stepped outside. The figure was still there, long hair, small body, dressed in white. As Tin got closer, the figure turned. It was a little girl. Her face was blurry, her eyes glowing red like smoldering embers. Tin screamed and fell backward. Everyone jumped up, but when they ran outside, all they saw was scattered sand. No footprints. Tri rushed to help Tin up. His face was pale, lips trembling. It looked at me. It didn't have pupils. Ha clung to Tri tightly. While Kai's voice shook, "We should leave." "Tri, first thing tomorrow morning. No more filming." Tri didn't answer, but from the riverbank came a soft rustling sound. They pointed their flashlights and saw a crude banana raft drifting toward shore, with an old doll lying on it. The doll wore a red silk halter. Its head slumped to one side, hair matted, and its face was smeared with dried mud. Du cautiously picked it up, and underneath were scratch marks made with fingernails. "Give my child back." The next morning, a cold drizzle fell. No one could sleep anymore. Uncle Saula hadn't returned as promised. The boat was still moored at the edge, but no one was there to steer it. Tri flipped through his grandmother's notebook again. This time, he found a small folded paper tucked inside. It was a hand-drawn map of the island, with a red circle marked, the spot labeled as the old village well. "I have to go there. If I don't, this won't end." Du nodded. Kai hesitated but still followed. Ha and Tin stayed at the camp. Tri, Du, and Kai crossed the sandbar, walking along the island's edge until they reached a sunken patch overgrown with weeds. At the center of the dip was a large, dark stone, cracked in 2. Tri brushed away the grass, revealing the old well's mouth, filled in with dirt and mortar. Kai raised his camera, filming while trembling, but as he brought the lens closer to the well, the screen began flickering, then froze. On the monitor, clear as day, was the face of a little girl staring up from inside the well. Kai panicked and dropped the camera. It hit the ground and played a repeating audio clip. "Oh, who would bury me under the well?" Tri turned to Du. "Do you believe it now? Du, maybe someone was buried alive here." That evening, Tri sat alone by the riverbank, holding the red haltered doll. He gently stroked its tangled hair and softly whispered, "If you're still here, tell me your name. I'll bring you home." A cold breeze swept past. A single tear rolled from the doll's eye. Oh, mother, please come back to me." Tri stayed awake all night. The image of the girl's face in the well, even if just a flicker in the camera, was etched in his mind. Her red eyes, dirt-smudged cheeks, and that broken lullaby, as if someone had been forgotten deep beneath the cold, dark earth. The next morning, the rain stopped. The sky was gray, casting an ashen veil over the island. Kai was in a delirious fever. Tin looked pale, mumbling that he'd dreamt someone dragging him by the leg in the night. Tri decided to build a huge fire, burning all the dry grass and rotten trees around the tents to cleanse the area. As they gathered leaves and branches near the riverbank, Ha discovered a small mound built with laterite stones, lightly covered with sand. At the top of the mound was a rotting bamboo stick tied with a strip of red cloth. "Looks like a child's grave," Ha whispered, her hands trembling. Du untied the cloth and held it to his nose. It still smelled strongly of dried blood. Tri signaled not to disturb the grave. But Kai, despite his fever, struggled to his feet to film it. When the first fire was lit, dry branches blazed fiercely. The river wind whipped the flames sideways. Du quietly scattered salt around the fire, chanting a protective prayer under his breath. Just then, the swirling ash cleared and revealed something strange in the remains. Tri bent down and picked up a half-burned small bone. And beside it, a tiny, shriveled hand, the pinky still clinging to a strip of skin. Ha screamed and fainted on the spot. That night, no one spoke, no one touched dinner, no one dared leave the tent. Kai burned with fever, muttering deliriously. "The girl, she was standing next to me. She wanted her necklace back. She was so cold, freezing." Tri wrapped the charred hand in the red cloth they had found, then buried it again beneath the old mastwood tree. Du kept drawing talismans and burning incense at the four corners. Around midnight, Tri suddenly woke to the sound of soft sobbing, like it was coming from deep underground. The cry of a child, broken and lingering. It was the 5th morning on Red Sand Island. There was no rain, but the sunlight couldn't break through the thick, milky fog that blanketed the desolate land. After what happened the night before, Tri decided not to delay any longer. He dug through the old suitcase he had brought from Saigon, the one holding the keepsakes his grandmother had left behind. Inside was a small envelope, and within it, a photo, yellowed with age. The photo showed 3 people: a middle-aged man in a black dye and turban, a young woman with shoulder-length hair, and a little girl, about 5 years old, standing in front, holding a red haltered doll. On the back of the photo was a faded scribble in purple ink. Nyan, Le, Han, Concad 1965. Tri froze. Le, that was his great-grandfather's name. Then Nyan. The woman beneath the mastwood tree. Could she be the girl in the photo? And that little girl was Han? Du examined the photo carefully, then pointed to a faint stain in the corner. Looks like someone drew a strange symbol here once. It's too faded, but it looks like a protective seal. I've seen this in ancient books. Tri nodded. So it wasn't just a disappearance. My family was really involved with dark rituals. When Uncle Saula heard there was an old photo, he went quiet. When he saw it, he recognized the man named Le. He was the one rumored in the village to have used sorcery to hold the land, preserve blessings. They used to say he performed a soul-binding ritual, using the blood of a family member to seal the ancestral grave. The one chosen was his first daughter, little Han. Nyan, his wife at the time, fled the village when she learned of it, but later she was brought back. And then, just a few days after, the entire family vanished in a sudden flood. No bodies were ever found. Tin gripped Tri's hand tightly. If that's true, then your family is the one who brought this curse on Red Sand Island. Tri didn't deny it. He lowered his head, his heart torn between guilt and fear. That afternoon, Du suggested setting up a temporary altar, writing the names of all 3, Nyan, Le, and Han. The group placed the old photo in the center, lit incense, and prayed, hoping their spirits would appear in dreams to reveal a way to break the curse. While they were burning incense, Ha suddenly fainted. When she regained consciousness, she said nothing, just reached out and drew 3 interlocking circles in the sand, a sealing symbol from ancient texts. That night, the group took turns keeping watch. Tri sat alone, still holding the photo. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind knocked over the altar. The photo flew out and landed face down. When Tri picked it up, he noticed, on the back of the photo, just beneath Concad 1965, a faint new line had appeared. When the daughter's blood spills once more, the spirit gate will open. Tri dropped the photo, his hands shaking. He realized, if they couldn't find a way to stop this, then Ha, the one who had seen the spirits of Nyan and Han, might be the next chosen. A child's laugh echoed somewhere in the trees, giggling, then silence. The photo, caught by the wind, drifted and landed right in front of the old, crumbling shrine at the island's far end, a place none of them had dared to approach since arriving. The wind grew stronger. The photo settled quietly on the steps of the old shrine at the edge of the island, a place so overgrown that light couldn't pierce the trees. No one in the group noticed the photo had disappeared, but that night, they all shared the same dream. A little girl with long, loose hair stood in the shrine courtyard, holding the charred doll, smiling, but whenever they tried to see her face clearly, the dream turned blood red. The next morning, Ha woke up first and suddenly called everyone because she had heard a child's laughter from the bamboo grove. When they ran out, they saw tiny footprints circling the area, clearly a child's barefoot prints, so light, they barely left an impression. Tri and Du followed the trail. The footprints led toward the river, then stopped suddenly. In front of them was a moss-covered boulder. Du tapped it with a stick. It gave a hollow sound, as if there were a void beneath. Kai brought out the camera to record, but though it clearly captured the riverbank, the bamboo, and the stone, no footprints appeared on screen, even though everyone could see them with their eyes. The group fell silent. Tri stood up, suspicion clear in his eyes. Could it be, the child has no shadow, and doesn't appear on camera? That night, Tri kept watch. He tried to stay alert by sitting at the camp's edge, eyes fixed on the darkness ahead. The campfire had burned down, leaving only faint red embers. After a while, he heard soft footsteps behind him. He turned, but Ha was still sound asleep inside the tent. Then came a child's laugh, very close. He stood, sweeping his flashlight around. The beam stopped at the trunk of the mastwood tree. A child was leaning against it. She didn't turn. Her arms still held the red haltered doll. Tri stammered, "Are you, Han?" The child said nothing, but suddenly, beneath her feet, the flashlight beam cast no shadow. Tri's whole body tensed. He stepped back. The child slowly turned her head, just enough to reveal a half-burned face, skin peeling off in patches. Then she vanished, like she was never there. Tri collapsed, struggling to breathe. The next morning, they found a large bruise on Ha's right shoulder, like someone had yanked her hard. She remembered nothing, but Kai, who shared the tent, confirmed that she had gotten up and walked out during the night. And he had assumed she was just going to the bathroom. Du began to suspect the blood ritual Uncle Sao had once mentioned. He opened an old book he had brought and turned to the section on spirit seals. It said, "When the soul of a sacrificed child remains restless, it will seek someone of shared blood to take its place." The signs are, no shadow, no image on camera, but footprints remain. The group discussed it, and in the end, Tri had to admit the truth. Ha was a distant cousin on Nyan's side, the woman in the photo. They were related by blood, though Tri's family had kept it secret ever since the flood. The air went still. Ha burst into tears, unable to believe she was the one chosen. But when she pulled from her pocket the small necklace she had picked up on the first day, everyone froze. On the pendant, engraved in delicate script, was a single word, Han. Du took it in his hand, face pale. Tri held his head. Kai was trembling, trying to film, but his hands shook so hard the footage blurred. No one noticed, just behind the tent, outside the plastic tarp, a small shadow stood. It had no legs, and as dusk approached, it slowly began moving toward the fading fire. The morning on Red Sand Island began in utter silence. No birds, no wind, not a single leaf moved. Ha awoke with puffy red eyes, her face pale. Tin hadn't said a word from midnight until dawn. Only Du sat quietly, sorting through his stack of feng shui texts and sealing rituals in an old leather backpack. Tri wandered back to the sealed well, where they had once seen the stone-marked tomb without a body. Without a name, he took a piece of wood and dug around. Suddenly, the ground beside the well's mouth gave way, revealing a small gap. Inside, there was a sound. Kai pointed the camera into it. In the dim light, something pale was curled up. As they brought the lens closer, they discovered it was a tiny shriveled arm. Clenching a strip of red cloth, Ha collapsed to the ground. She spoke in panic. "That's the arm from my dream. It reached up from the bottom of the well, begging to be pulled out. Du insisted they open the well. Tri agreed. The group began digging. By evening, they had cleared a wide section. Beneath it was a pit about 3 meters deep, filled with mud, decaying leaves, and rainwater collected over time. They rigged a crude pulley. Du volunteered to go first. He lowered himself into the dark, sludgy pit. As his hand touched the stone wall, he found carvings, childlike figures, eyeless faces, hands in chains. Then a foul stench rose. Du touched a groove in the wall, where thick red liquid slowly oozed out. Du shouted, "It's blood, real blood." They pulled him up. His face was pale, his hands still smeared with it. Tri stared silently into the well, and for the first time, his grandmother's face appeared in his mind. Her voice trembling, "Don't let blood spill again, it will awaken." That night, they set up an offering table in front of the well. Tri prayed for a long time, placing the old photo, Han's necklace, and the burned doll on the altar. A gust of wind blew in. Incense smoke struck Kai, who was holding the camera, right in the face. Kai fell backward, then jolted up, eyes wide. It's in the well, it hasn't come out yet, it's waiting." Ha rushed over, clinging to Tri, but blood suddenly seeped from her right wrist, though there was no visible wound. Everyone panicked. Du scrambled to draw a protective circle around the well with salt, ashes, and 5 colored cords. Midnight, the sound of a child sobbing rose from the well. "Mommy, it's cold? I can't find my hand." Then came splashes, water stirring, and finally, a burst of giggling, sharp and echoing in the night. Tri lunged forward to seal the well. Du burned sealing powder over its mouth. Thick smoke billowed out. They all collapsed to the ground, drenched in sweat. But in the shadows behind them, a small figure was sitting on a high branch, swinging its legs. It looked down at the group, grinning ear to ear. No one noticed, it still had no shadow. The group was nearly drained after a long night with the bleeding well and the cries echoing from deep underground. Tri sat slumped against a tent pole, eyes blank, staring into the morning mist. Du quietly packed away the nearly burnt-out talismans. Ha sat motionless, spiritless, clutching her wrist that still bled slowly despite no cut. Tin was the first to notice the man. A thin, frail figure, wearing a torn conical hat, leaning on a walking stick, eyes cloudy like glass. He slowly approached from the old trail at the end of the island, the path that once led to the ferry dock. The old man said nothing. He stopped before the altar they had made the night before, bowed deeply, then turned to Tri. "You're Lee's grandson, aren't you?" Tri was startled. "You knew my grandmother?" "Yes. She once tried to save the little girl, but it was too late." The group gathered around the old man. In the haze of fragrant tea he brewed from a cloth pouch, the truth began to unfold. He was once the caretaker of the La family's ancestral graves, Tri's paternal line, who had been the wealthiest landowners in the region. But wealth alone couldn't hold land, so they turned to dark magic. Back then, they said, whoever could keep the land kept the blessings, but who could hold on to a vengeful spirit? Tri asked, "What about Nyan and Han? Were they really sacrificed?" The old man nodded. Ms. Nyan resisted. She was tied and kept under the mastwood tree. That night, a storm rolled in. Mr. Le performed the sealing ritual, used his own daughter's blood, but Ms. Nyan escaped and threw herself into the well to save her child. Both were buried alive. Ha trembled. "Then, my dream was real?" He nodded again. "The girl chose you because of shared blood. She doesn't want a substitute. She wants her mother recognized. She wants a proper burial." Everyone went silent. The old man pulled from his bag a lock of long hair, wrapped in handmade paper. "Nyan's hair. I kept it. Always meant to return it one day, to place beside the graves of mother and child." He set the bundle down, then pulled from his shirt collar a blackened silver necklace. This was the only thing Ms. Nyan had left when she was pulled into the well. "I'm giving it to you now. The time has come." Tri accepted it, hands trembling. The old man stood, his blind eyes gazing toward the far end of the island. This island isn't cursed. It's the living, who haven't returned what they took. No one had time to ask further. The old man slowly turned away, disappearing into the fog. They called after him, but there was no response. When they chased him to the edge of the sandbar, only a trail of frail footprints remained, ending abruptly at the water's edge. The group returned. That night, they lit white candles, spread out a mat, and placed Han's necklace, Nyan's hair, and the silver chain on the altar. No one spoke. They simply waited to see if the spirits of the wronged mother and child would accept. At midnight, the candle flames flared violently. Smoke rose, forming the shape of a woman cradling a child. The wind howled, and then, everything fell silent. Nyan's hair vanished. The red-clad doll burned to ashes. Only the silver necklace remained, gleaming as if it had never aged. Tri sat silently beneath the Mu tree at dawn. There were no more lullabies, no small shadows darting through the reeds. But his heart felt heavy. The silver necklace lay in his hand, its cold glint piercing the morning mist. Though the spirits of Nyan and her child had appeared, he knew this wasn't the end. After a night of unconsciousness, Ha awoke, recalling only one thing: a whisper in her mind, instructing her to perform a redemption ritual on the night of the full moon in the 7th lunar month. That was tomorrow night. The group began preparations. Du-led tried to the riverside where the old well was. He said, "We need to build a small shrine right over the well's mouth. It must have a representative effigy, offerings, and blood from the heir of the bloodline. That's you." Tri didn't hesitate. He pricked his fingertip, letting 3 drops of blood fall onto the well's mouth. Then he placed the photograph of the 3, Nyan, Le, Han, alongside it, the necklace, the doll's ashes, the silver chain, and a fresh red cotton flower. Tin and Kai constructed a temporary thatched roof using dry Mu branches. Ha stood by, chanting prayers, clutching the prayer beads once given by Mr. Saola. On the night of the full moon, the moonlight poured like silver. The atmosphere was so still that the gentle lapping of the river against the sand could be heard. The wind only stirred when the first candle was lit. Mid-ceremony, as Tri knelt before the well, reciting each name, the air grew heavy. Ha burst into tears without knowing why. She said, "She is standing behind you. Tri," she says, "don't forget your promise." Tri froze. Han's voice from his childhood dreams echoed. "When you come back, let's play again, okay? Don't leave me waiting anymore." Back then, Tri had spent a few months in the countryside, playing with a nameless neighbor girl with slightly curly hair, always hugging a red doll. He had forgotten, thinking she was imaginary. But it turned out, she was Han, the one who had always waited for his return. Tri broke down in tears. He knelt close to the well. "Han, I'm back. Your mother is at peace now. You don't have to stay anymore. Go on, I promise. I will never let you be forgotten." A strong gust rose from the well. The candle extinguished. The cotton flower burned into fragrant smoke. The necklace split in 2, then turned to dust. The next morning, the Mu tree shed all its leaves. Its bare trunk stood as if it had just released a 1,000-year-old grievance. And from the well's mouth, the stagnant mud had dried. The earth no longer oozed blood. Tri brought the photograph back, framing it in wood. In the photo, the 3 still stood there. But strangely, the little girl was no longer alone. Beside her was a boy about 7 years old, holding her hand and smiling. No one knew who he was. But Tri whispered, "Perhaps he's the one who will lead her home." After the redemption ritual, the sky was clear as if no ghost had ever tainted this place. But Du remained uneasy. He quietly wrote in his notebook in red ink, "The yin energy hasn't dissipated. The spirits have moved on. But the gate remains open." Tri read it, furrowing his brow. "What gate?" Du softly replied, "The spirit gate. Once opened, it's not just trapped souls that can pass through. Other things might ride the wind and come." That night, the sky was unusually overcast. Dark clouds hung like a net. Without rain, Ha sat silently on the mat, holding the altered photograph. She recounted a strange dream. I saw myself standing before the old village gate. Hundreds of people dressed in white. Faceless. Voiceless. Only a distant voice calling my name. Tin laughed to reassure her. The ritual's done. Everything's over. But Kai, who was editing the footage from the previous night, was startled. In the clip where the candle extinguished, at the moment the smoke cleared, a line of shadowy figures appeared behind Tri. All facing away, as if awaiting orders. Kai quietly turned off the camera. Said nothing. At midnight, as everyone rested, they heard a knocking on the tent wall. Not loud, not urgent, just steady, like someone knocking on their own door. Tri sprang up. The wind wasn't blowing, yet the tent flaps fluttered. He stepped out, flashlight in hand. Darkness enveloped everything. No insect sounds, no water noises. Then a faint sound came from the old shrine at the sandbar's end. Du also rushed out, grabbing Tri's hand. Don't go alone, I've seen it. The gate is truly open. There are strange shadows around the shrine. The group grabbed flashlights and headed to the shrine. The decayed wooden door stood wide open. On the shrine's wall, someone had drawn the symbol of 3 interlocking circles with charcoal, the ancient sealing emblem. And on the shrine's altar, an oil lamp burned red. No one had lit it. No one had brought a lamp. Tin stepped back but bumped into something soft. He turned. Behind him stood a woman in a brown robe. Head covered with a scarf. Face indistinct. Arm extended forward. Leave, she softly said. Her voice like a breeze. The group stepped back, but Du held Tri's arm. If we don't close the gate tonight, it will drag along things that can't move on. And not everyone will survive to leave here. Tri nodded. Du took out the final sealing paper. A sheet inscribed with a blood-drawn protective circle. Usable only once. They placed it at the shrine's center, burning it along with the remaining doll ashes, hair, and silver fragments. The wind rose, a vortex swirling above the altar, drawing smoke into a spiral. A faint wailing echoed, like 100 voices calling. Return our names to us. Du shouted loudly. We don't hold anyone's name. Return to where you belong. The whirlwind ceased. Everything fell silent. The oil lamp flickered out. From beyond the sandbar, the crimson moon peeked through the thick clouds. A sharp cracking sound echoed from the direction of the well. Rushing over, they found the stone slab covering the well's mouth, split in 2. On its surface, a clear inscription appeared. Sealed. Do not reopen. Dawn had not yet broken, and the river remained shrouded in mist. Yet, a resonant sound pierced the stillness, awakening the entire group. A bell. Not a temple bell, nor the clang of metal, but the solitary chime of a small bell. The kind once hung around the necks of buffaloes, ringing intermittently. Each chime was fragmented, as if someone were passing by, pausing, then moving on. Tri was the first to dash out of the tent, heart pounding. He recognized the sound, emanating from the center of the sandbar, the former site of the La family's ancestral home. Now reduced to moss-covered ruins and wild overgrowth. Du whispered, no living soul hangs bells here. That bell, it's a signal. Ha trembled, clutching the old photograph. The image had changed again. The little girl, Han, and the boy beside her were no longer standing still. They were turning their faces toward the remnants of the old house. The group hurried in that direction. Along the path overrun with weeds, they discovered small footprints etched into the morning dew. Barefoot prints of a child. Strangely, each step left behind a tiny bloodstain, as if someone had walked through lingering pain. Upon reaching the center of the ruins, the bell's sound ceased. Atop a charred brick lay a tiny, weathered bronze bell, rusted, its string still stained with dried blood. Tri collapsed to his knees, stunned. This was the very bell his grandmother had hung at their door when his grandfather passed away. He recalled her words. This bell isn't to call the living, but to let those below know they're remembered. Du scanned the surroundings, eyes filled with unease. None of us placed it here. So, someone beneath the sandbar wishes to be remembered. Perhaps it's not over yet. Kai activated his camera, panning slowly around, but the lens captured only blurred images. Suddenly, wind gusted from all directions. Leaves swirled counterclockwise. Du shouted, "Step back, someone's opening a path. The old gate is closed, but a new one is being awakened." Ha collapsed, hands trembling, muttering incoherent phrases. Her vision blurred. Then she suddenly exclaimed, "It's not Han, it's another child, one who was never named." Tri looked at Du. Both understood. Han wasn't the only child lost on Concat. There might have been others, nameless, graveless, unremembered. They returned to the camp. Bringing the bell, Tri took a pen and wrote on coarse paper. "For the souls of unnamed children, ageless." Without anyone waiting, Du used talisman ashes to draw a protective circle. Ha lit white candles. Kai placed the bell at the center. They lit 3 incense sticks and together whispered apologies. The wind calmed. The bell rang one final time, soft as a breath, then fell silent. At that moment, the sky began to lighten. The sun rose slowly behind the bamboo grove. For the first time since arriving at Concat, the group heard birdsong, etching a name for the children. Tri froze. These children had never been given names. They couldn't move on, because no one had ever called them even once by a real name. They returned and gathered the whole group. Du proposed holding a naming ceremony. Kai printed out a list of beautiful names, taken from an old book once left behind by Uncle Sao. Tri wrote each name down on paper: Min, En, Bin, Han, Tuong, Kang, Fuck. Each name was a wish for life. A wish those children had never received. At the foot of the Mu Yu tree, they dug a circular patch of earth, shaped it into a symbolic graveyard, and placed a name on each wooden stake. Tri lit an incense stick and read each name aloud. Min, you have a name now. En, someone remembers you now. Han, you're no longer nameless. Fuck, may you sleep peacefully? Ha couldn't hold back her tears. In her heart, she could see each little one, thin, round-eyed, sunburned hair, walking past her, nodding gently in thanks before dissolving into the wind. When they reached the 49th name, a sudden gust of wind stirred. A clump of wet sand rose and scattered before them, forming a word. A name they had never seen before. Lu. No one in the group had written that. It wasn't on the list. Tri turned to Du. Who is Lu? Du stayed silent, but Kai's face turned pale. He unzipped his backpack and pulled out a small notebook he had picked up on the first day by the reed beds. He'd never opened it, but now, flipping to the first page, there was only a single line written in smudged brown ink. If someone remembers, please call me once, Lu. Tri lit another incense stick, placed it in the middle of the sandy circle, and softly called out, Lu, if you're still here, be at peace now. You have a name, you are remembered. The wind spiraled again, lifting a strand of hair above the symbolic grave. River water lapped at the sandbar, carrying a faint scent like incense. On the way back, Ha quietly said to Tri, I saw them, smiling. No one was crying anymore. The final night on Concat, the whole group decided not to sleep, not out of fear, but because none of them wanted to miss a single moment of their last night in the place that had changed their lives. Tri sat beneath the Mu Yu tree, eyes gazing far into the distance. His fingers gently held a silver necklace, the only thing left from the exorcism ritual. Du laid a mat beside him, opened his notebook, flipped to the last page, and wrote the final lines. Where the living and the dead meet. It is no longer a threat, but a reminder to live rightly, live fully, and never forget to name the things we thought we had forgotten. Ha rested her head on Tin's shoulder, eyes half closed, softly humming a lullaby, the same one they'd heard from the well on their first night. But now, it wasn't eerie, it was gentle, like afternoon smoke from a countryside kitchen, like an old sadness being sun-dried. Kai finalized the last piece of footage. No cuts, no effects, just raw moments. Incense smoke curling, leaves falling in the wind. Ha's eyes as she named each forgotten child. He titled the file, The Sleep on Sand Dune. At dawn, Uncle Saula rode back to pick them up. He looked at each person but said nothing. Only when the boat pushed off did he turn to the sandbar and whisper. Peaceful now. This time, truly peaceful. The group all turned back to look. Con Cat faded into the distance. The Mu tree disappeared into the mist. But across the still water, faint streaks of light appeared, like tiny footsteps sending them off. That same afternoon, back in the city, Tri replayed the raw footage Kai had saved. In the final clip, where the camera had kept running without anyone noticing, there was a shot of the whole group laughing beside the firelight. But strangest of all, in the background, just beyond the flames, was a line of tiny figures, each holding a paper candle. They did nothing, just stood there, and then, all at once, they bowed. Tri turned off the camera. He closed his eyes. In his heart, something quietly settled. An old chapter closed. A lingering sorrow soothed. A final sleep on the sand dune had truly begun. If you've stayed with us from the beginning until now, thank you for listening, for feeling, and for not turning away. There are souls that need no altar, only to be called by name once. There are dreams not meant to frighten, but to remind us to live lightly when we go, and warmly enough that those who stay won't hurt. If you believe these stories deserve to continue, leave a comment, a share, or simply a little heart, because sometimes a tiny light in the dark is enough to calm an entire nightmare. See you on the next journey to another land, another legend, and another restless spirit waiting to be heard.